about all that. We sent our PowerPoint and our presentation, and then I guess it was the wrong one, so it was just the draft version. So in the hour and a half that we had created everything, we just did it all again in like 10 minutes or something. So sorry if there's like spelling mistakes or something like that. It was kind of, recreated very quickly. So we were Group A, and, we're talking about blended learning here. Am I going to be the one to do that? Oh, you're wrong. Thank you. Okay, so we wanted to sort of demonstrate something that we are going to be talking about within our presentation. So, if you could, on your phones, just type in this exact web address. And this is an example that we're going to talk about a little bit in the presentation. But basically, if you have any comments or questions at all during the presentation, you can just type it and send it here. And so I can show you an example. Well, Emra will show you an example. It's already created, so you'll just choose, you can pick a nickname or write your name here. And then when you type out your question, just hit send and it will appear here. So at the end of the session, we'll just have all of our questions right here, ready to go, and we'll just start answering them. Okay? So you can do this at any time throughout the presentation. Okay, so, however, if something is unclear, please ask me immediately, and I'll clarify something. You don't have to wait until the end to do that. Okay, so, yep, that's that. So we can go back. Is this clear for everyone? Yeah? Okay, cool. Great. So, this was the bullet points that were included in the program for us, for Group A to talk about. We talked about a lot of these things, and we found that as we were talking about them, a lot of them really overlapped. So we'll share a lot of the details that came up about this later on in the presentation. So actually we can continue, because we'll go over it all. So first of all, I think the most important question since we're talking about blended learning is what exactly is it? And so we just referred back to Bougon's article that we had all read as pre-reading, which I'm sure everyone did, so everyone knows this information. But we wanted to include it here so that we could be a bit clearer about what it is we're talking about. So you can see that 30 to 79% is the blended learning. So this is how much, or rather what percent of technology is used within the lesson within the curriculum. So you can see 0% is traditional, 80% or more is online, and so we're right around the middle, give or take some. So that's what we're talking about here. Then we were thinking about some possible models that could be used to integrate technology into the curriculum. So obviously not completely, because then it would be online, but not too little, because then it would just be web facilitated or traditional teaching. So these were some ideas. You already heard about Samurai, I guess, from your previous, I'm so sorry to have missed it, though, but your previous presentation. So Samurai is one of them. We can go to the next one. There's this other one. It's Tech, and it's by Kathy Schrock. So you can see it's TECH. So T, traditional. E, enhanced, so teacher integrates multiple tech tools. Choice is there's goals set by the teacher, and then students kind of have a say in what it is they're going to do. And then handoff is more student interest driven, so maybe project-based or something like this, something that they do at MEF, for example. So that was another model. And the last model, maybe some of you are familiar with TPAC. So you have 3 different types of knowledge. You have technical knowledge, content knowledge, and then pedagogical knowledge. And then you also have various mixtures of each of them together and how they affect each other. And then you have right in the middle, which is the technical, pedagogical, content knowledge. So it's the whole thing and how all of it's used together. And so it should be noted, though, that in all of these models, institutions use them in different ways at different levels. So some institutions are very low tech, so they don't really use a whole lot of technical knowledge. Maybe they use more pedagogical knowledge, content knowledge, and so sometimes it's left up to the teacher, sometimes it's mandated and it's built into the curriculum, so there's all different kinds of varying levels. Move on. Okay, so this is kind of like in an ideal world. pedagogy would drive the technology, not the other way around. So basically, this is kind of an assumption that we all have when we use technology. But unfortunately, it's not always this way. Sometimes it's broken, but we should keep this in mind throughout the presentation because deep down, this is our aim. This is what we think we should be doing. So we had 3 main principles. So when we think about the principles of what a technological tool should be, it's kind of hard to have like a really broad list because some technological tools are interactive and some aren't. So it's not really a principle. It's not something that is the base, the foundation of what a technological tool should be. So we only had 3 principles that in theory are true for every single type of technology used in education. So we'll talk about those first. And the first one is that it should meet a need. So no matter what you're doing when you are using an educational technology, be it in the curriculum or just as a teacher, your choice in the lesson, it should have some sort of goal. So maybe it's an institutional objective, or maybe you just want to increase motivation, or maybe the students just need a break. So the last 10 minutes of class, you bust out a Kahoot. That's okay. And so that's a need, though, and you're meeting that need. The next principle was that it should enhance learning or teaching. So there's variety here. If you use Kahoot all the time, maybe the students might grow bored, so you have lots of other choices of things that you can do. And also, a lot of them create, or promote, shall I say, learner autonomy. And that's kind of a nice feature. Not all technological tools do that, but a lot of them do. And also balanced efficiency and effectiveness. And I think someone yesterday had pointed out that just because something is efficient doesn't mean that it's effective. But if you can find a nice healthy balance between what you're using and how you're using it, then it will enhance learning or teaching. And the last principle is that it should be accessible. So it needs to be practical. You can't expect your students to do some sort of online submission if your Wi-Fi at the school doesn't work. So it needs to be reasonable for whatever your context is. I'm so sorry, that's mine. Apologize. It should be up to date. I would never, does anybody remember MySpace? Right? Like we wouldn't really use right? You're not sure. So like I would never do a MySpace activity with my students. It's not really relevant anymore. Facebook is like kind of going that way, so we need to keep it relevant. Also, one of the other teachers had mentioned that she thinks that Kahoot is kind of childish. So if you have a really mature class and they're not really into games, then that's not something that you would want to use with them. So you need to make sure that it's relevant, up-to-date, practical, and also there needs to be proper training. You cannot expect your teachers or your students to use a technological tool if they don't know how. You have to give them that accessibility by giving them the knowledge of how to use it. So that was our 3rd principle. Now, we wanted to highlight the other benefits of educational technology, though. So we have our principles, which are our foundation, which in theory, ideally, are true for each technological tool, no matter what it is you use. But the other benefits that we wanted to highlight are true for some technological tools, but not for others. But they're still worth mentioning, because that's why we use them. So the first slide is about all of the benefits. So you have, some of them are really interactive. For example, Quizlet or Padlet. And I'm not going to go into very much detail with the examples that we've given because I think Group B is going to touch on some of this stuff a little bit more. Yeah. So I don't want to steal anybody's thunder there. But so we have interactive, time-saving when you use it properly. And I think that that's a very important key. QR codes are a nice example of that. Socrative is also another example. Easily adaptable. So you have Google Apps for Education. So this is like Google Docs, Google Drive, even PowerPoint, for example. You can take it for one class, delete a slide, and use it, and it's now suddenly more appropriate for another class. So something that you can change easily. User-friendly. So, for example, today's Meet is something that we're using now, actually. Maybe some of you have typed questions already. And it's very straightforward. You don't really have to... I mean, if it's something that you can look at and figure out in probably 2 or 3 minutes what you're supposed to do, then I would think it's pretty user-friendly. Also, again, we're in Turkey. The students don't really have that much access, I guess, or exposure to English outside of class, so the use of technology gives them another resource. Also, of course, engaging should be, attention-grabbing, sometimes fun. A good way to teach various skills, so we have to remember that we're not just teaching English when we use technology, we're teaching digital literacy, how to use a Word document, how to upload a file, and these are all skills that the students are probably very well going to need in their workplace in the future. And also easily monitored and controlled. So, for example, if you have a quiz on Blackboard and you have all of the students take the quiz, then you can see which questions the students mostly had a problem with, or you can see how much time they've spent on it. You can set date restrictions, so they have a week to do this, and you can control that. So that's a nice feature of technology as well. Some issues are on the opposite side. So we said sometimes it's time-saving, sometimes it's time-consuming. I don't think I need to go over that part very much, because I think that all of us damn well know that that is a problem. So there's also plagiarism. So students copying from each other, especially on my English lab, copying directly from the internet into the writing. Again, not enough training. So resistance from teachers and students, they just don't want to. Over-reliance. There are some teachers who they'll be using technology all fun and well, and then when there's an electricity cut and everything goes away, there's panic. Panic ensues. So that's not really good. Again, there's not a whole lot of literature out there about the effects or the outcomes truly that we can generalize when we think about technology. Unreliable, again, electricity cut, Wi-Fi failure, using it for the wrong purposes, not necessarily to enhance learning, but to just say, look at me, look at our school, we're great. And it's expensive. And that's it. It was all lost, so we just wanted to get it home there. So I know I was talking really fast too, so I apologize for that. But cool. Hi world. We have lots of hellos. Hi mom. We have one. So how can a good blended learner model be shaped or implemented? Well, it's definitely going to have to be at the institutional level. If it's going to be implemented into the curriculum, I think there needs to be a need analysis. And I think that a lot of times when we're thinking about the technical tools that we use, we kind of skip that part. So it definitely needs to be at an institutional level after some sort of needs analysis, feedback from the teachers, feedback from the students, and lots of training, lots and lots of training. The MEF teacher knows all about that. Does anybody from our group want to comment on that either?
No,
was that?
okay.
Yeah. Are there any other questions?
I think there's a comment.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, thank you. Anything else?
Yes.
Okay, no traditional questions today, too. Okay, cool. Great. Thanks, everyone. Oh, thank you again. Thank you much.
Updated version, 11. I think they're bringing up the PowerPoint. Present of compound. There is some changes to want to use that instead.
Thank you, Jen.
You wrote that?
No. I said there's something.
Mashallah.
You're welcome. My number. Take care.
No. glance through them.
Okay, I got a mouse.
All the stuff just really very careful. So I think
So, first things first. If you have any comments or complaints during the presentation, we're going to do this the old-fashioned way. Write it down on a piece of paper, crumple it up at me, and we'll just do it that way. You can do this at any time during the presentation. It's fine. We know that our task was to look at ways to design a blended learning curriculum. However, during the course of that, we came across some principles, and I know I'm missing the person who just did the presentation, but anyways, but we thought they were valuable enough. There you are. We thought they were valuable enough that we would put them up here and just mention them briefly. Anyways, so I understand we're treading on your territory, but
That's okay.
say that. Okay, so first of all, it seems to us that it occurred to us that the primary thing that has to underline all of your decisions about technology is student engagement. If you don't have your students' attention, if you don't have your students engaged on the task, you're basically wasting your time. So that really needs to be the driving factor every time you're making a decision. You can just refer back to that. Does this increase student engagement or not? After that, then you can prioritize. After that, then, we noticed in the article, in the Thornberry article, he listed out 12 different factors that you can consider. Another thing is that we tend to, of course, be very attracted to the new and the novel, and they said it was important to wait until the hype cycle dies out, and then you can pick from the survivors, the apps that have been around for a while, the technologies that seem to survive. For example, I don't want to knock on Kahoot, but it does seem to me it's one of those things that has lots of music, it's very active, and within, I'm going to give it 3 months, the students are going to be like, seriously, please, teacher. So, I would just say before we waste a lot of time really working, and we'll touch on this in a little bit, on delivery. Before we waste a whole lot of time integrating this stuff into the curriculum and demanding that teachers use it and getting over the resistance that a lot of teachers have, maybe we should just wait to see which ones stick around. Then the other thing is getting a balance. The thing is, students still do, believe it or not, respect the older methods of standing up here on the board and explaining things. And the thing is, a lot of teachers, they also don't want to be overwhelmed with a lot of new technology. We have a limited degree of social capital that we can spend on these teachers. You know from dealing with your colleagues, they can be a bit recalcitrant at times. So you want to be careful about throwing too much technology on them, otherwise they might just like buy out, so to speak. The other thing is that some of these things are basic delivery methods. They're simply supplemental tools. Others of them, they can be more integrated part of the curriculum. So those were just a few comments we wanted to make before we went on to what is actually. Yeah. Oh, well. Thank you, sir. Did it go, or did you do it? Okay. So anyway, I was hoping I'd have a laser. Boing. Okay. So this is an overview. It took us a really long time to find an approach to examine the problem. We spent a lot of time hashing back and forth, and finally it occurred to us that there are various functions of the student's learning experience, and there are various aspects of the teacher's teaching experience, and then there are various aspects of the student-teacher interaction. When you look at all of those different aspects, each of those you could possibly insert technology into to make it more effective. So that, in the end, was the approach that ended up being useful for us. So we came up with 7 areas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and in fact 4 subcategories here of content delivery being the skills. So just briefly, we have content delivery and skills, digital literacy, communication with the students. This is kind of their out-of-classroom experience, homework and self-study. feedback that you give to the students, assessment and logistics, there's another category in there, but anyways, and logistics. And then after that, we'll get to the application process of perhaps how then to propose putting that into your curriculum, into designing your curriculum. But first we wanted to consider, like, these are the areas that we would like to improve. So, now, a second thing is part of our example was to provide, part of our task that's listed in your book was to provide examples of tools, actual things you could use. So we have done so, but I don't have that much to say about them because I don't know them personally. So we divided up into teams and they listed these out. Can we have the next slide, please? Thank you. So, writing, here are some tools that people suggested. I should point out that those could be used either in the school or out of the school. I'll give you just a moment to read those and then we'll be moving on. We've got about 2 more slides like this and then we'll get back to the other aspects. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, speaking and listening. And next one, please. All right, and reading, these are ones people suggested for that. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, in addition to those, as far as content delivery is concerned, those are ones that were skills specific. These are general platforms for content, as you can see Moodle's there. Please do notice the tray. That's a metaphor for a content delivery system. We're very proud of that. Okay. So, next slide, please. Okay, so aside from content, we have the other aspects of the educational realm. If you will recall, they were digital literacy, communication with students, homework and self-study, feedback, assessment, and logistics. We're now on the digital literacy one. This really ought to be the first one that we address because this is a primary need. These days, students have to deal with computers. And a lot of us, at least I myself, I tend to come in thinking that you kids know how to do these things. And it turns out that at least in every class, there are a few who prove me wrong. And we have to take account of that because the thing is, we're thinking like, oh, how can we add more technology when there's some kids who can't access right now the basic technology, who can't handle that. So the first thing we need to do is just teach basic digital literacy and make sure that all our students have that. Then after that, we can start looking at some things like netiquette, how to handle emails back and forth with your teachers, we can start asking ourselves, like, in their faculties, what kind of things are they going to need to do? And after that, we can't really just leave these things to chance. We're going to have to integrate them into the curriculum and explicitly teach them to make sure that the students have them. Okay, can we get the next slide, please? Okay, the next aspect that we have to deal with is communication with the students. Now, a good communication platform needs to provide all of the following. It needs to provide time efficiency, accessibility, and we should be able to put tools and links and other things that we can have there. Also, a good platform will provide us with a written record so that we can tell the students, yes, you should have been aware of this, this was posted before, and also a written record of our communication back and forth, so if things ever do go to admin, we have a record of what we did so we are in the clear. And finally, we need two-way communication. The student should be able to respond back to us. Sometimes we just think, oh, I've posted all the stuff there, but clearly the student needs to be able to respond back to us. Can we have the next slide, please? Okay, these are a few things that people suggested over the course of our 2 days together. I think you've heard some of them a number of times. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, next part is homework and self-study. One of the things you can get here is a variety in how you present your materials. That hopefully will make the students a little bit more engaged. This differentiated learning, some of these things are apparently will self-adjust to the level of the student. So if the student, for example, answers some questions wrong, it will adjust them down and give them an easier reading. And so this would take some of the load off of us. The other thing is feedback. Feedback could be instant or delayed. There's various kinds. And then people have, my English lab keeps coming up over and over again. And these provide reports on student performance so that the student themselves know how well they're doing or how poor they're doing. And once again, this takes some of the burden off of us because the student's getting feedback and we're getting numbers as well. Next slide. Okay, so. Oh, no, this one. I wonder if it's going to do that every time. Okay then. Let's not forget that feedback is an essential part of the content delivery cycle. It comes in various forms. We've got written as well as oral feedback, and peer feedback shouldn't be discounted. There are lots of tools to do this. The advantages are hopefully a good system should save you time. A good system should be accessible from anywhere. And don't forget, like, one of the advantages of doing these things online is that Mehmet can't lose his second draft. I mean, it's there on the computer, and so that way you cut out some of the human factor. And of course, as I said before, you know, it also allows for peers and other people to access those papers if you want them. All right, next slide, please. Assessment. There are lots of different ways that we can do assessment now. So we've got lots of platforms for projects, etc. This dynamic assessment is a great idea in which like students can get a second chance to answer some questions. So if they got them wrong, you can mark them, but they get a second chance to do it. After that, blah, blah, blah. Go ahead. Okay. Don't forget students, teachers need feedback from students as well, because we need to know how we are doing. And then, now, before we go to the next slide, don't forget, teachers spend a lot of their time in the out of the classroom following up on bureaucratic crap. Go ahead, next one. Yeah, which we are. Okay, so, such as keeping records, attendance, gradebook. A well-designed system can save you a lot of headaches, or it can generate a lot of headaches. So it seems to me this is really, if I just had to put some money on something that was going to be useful, I would say really invest time in selecting a good one of these. We have a system. No, let me show you. Okay, and then finally, yes, let's get the last one. Okay, this seems to us the best process. After you have considered these things, that will allow you to nominate tools, okay? Once you have nominated tools, then I would offer them on a voluntary basis to teachers, say who would like to pilot them. And then after you pilot them in the classroom, well, first of all, train the teachers on them, then pilot them in the classroom, then you gather the feedback from both teachers and students, and select the tools that you want to go forward with, that seem best to you. Then after that, see how you can embed the tools into the different skills that we discussed earlier. After that, you're going to have to do a wider training, and hopefully this will increase adoption. And then promote these tools, and we thought this was really important, on a voluntary basis. It seems like there are tools that are good enough that they will eventually sell themselves, and it just becomes a wave where so many of your colleagues are using them that you feel like, why not? I guess I could get on because they're putting shit there and then they're sending me the email about it. But if you try and force it on people, they just kind of tend to, like a dog does when you pull his leash, he just plants and backs up, and they don't want to do it. Teachers are often like this, so it seems to us most important that it be on a voluntary basis. That's all.
Students, can you go back to the previous slide? When they get the picture, so you had the slides of delivering content for the various skills, and I missed some
They
of
will all
them.
be put on the FOCI website, please.
I had it for reading. I need reading to share.
They'll all be put on the FOCI
Oh,
website.
yeah.
And plus the video recordings as well. But Emma needs a little bit of time for that. Okay. Group C. Sorry, actually, we missed out. Are there any questions for Group B? We missed out on that. Or did we ask? We have timetable in 5 minutes for questions. So Don't be afraid to ask. Okay, I think no questions. Thank you.
Hello everybody, this is the last presentation of today, I'm guessing. I'll do my best to keep it short and sweet. My name is Dilem and I'm from North Cyprus, Eastern Mediterranean University, Malta. And today we'll work with a group of wonderful friends whose names appear there. So I'd like to thank you for them for all their contributions. This is not my work, we all work together, we had a wonderful team, so thank you very much. I'm just going to present what they said, okay? Yeah, what we discussed, of course. This is my first time I'll be using the Flickr, so sorry for the, if I can't work it out. Okay, so we in our group we discussed how to introduce a blended learner curriculum into our teaching. So what we need to do first, we need to define what actually blended learning means. And for that, we need to come up with an institutional definition of blended learning. The reason being is we need to consider institutional objectives, we need to consider course objectives and outcomes, learner profiles and needs, teacher profiles and needs, and resources. How much money do we have as a school, how much time do we have, and what kind of support can we give to our teachers and to our students. So this is our definition, so integrating technology into the curriculum systematically. So, there are three main challenges that we discussed together, and we kind of tried to come up with an action plan of how to overcome these challenges, if not all, but do our best. So the first challenge is to do with the technology. So what we mean by that is to consider the challenges that we might face to do with the availability of the technological resources inside the class and outside the class. Do we have the infrastructure that we need to accommodate a blended learning curriculum? Projectors, smart boards, you can call anything. You might have skipped some, maybe. There's digital literacy problem. Are the students digitally literate? And as well as the teacher, true. Beliefs and attitudes toward technology. This also considers both teacher and the students, and the time constraints. The other challenge is to do with the methodology. So we say blended learning, but to what extent do we blend? And what we put in this blend is a matter of concern. And it differs from institution to institution. Which model are we using? Do you remember Hojam talking about a summer model, and the previous group, I can't remember which one was it, was it you, beginning student A, that you discussed some models. So which model are you aiming for? The materials, the platforms, and the tools that you're using, and whether you put it into the assessment, which is considered as a headache at some point, and the practicality of it, and balance and correlation of the content. What we mean by this is whether the online content matches the course content. Does it support each other? Things like e-portfolios, online quizzes, so these are the elements that we should have a look at. And you probably face problems when dealing with these. Interaction patterns that we think about. Interaction types. Is this platform that you'll be using, is blended learning, do we treat it as student-to-student interaction? Or is that going to be student-to-teacher interaction? That will be the focus. That's a question for both. You'll see the code there from one of our readings that it overlaps with what we have discussed. Just give you some time to read. Sorry. So what we mean by the matching, the correlation, is whether the online components actually support the course content, or is it just something else? Yeah? So it mixes the media context, learning theories, or the learning objectives. And our third challenge is the teacher and learner challenge. So what we mean by this is how much involved the teacher and the students are in the blended learning that we're aiming for. Are we aiming for a full learner involvement? How much involved will the teacher be? The word resistance, which we actually try to avoid using it, because if there is some sort of resistance, we kind of agree that there is some sort of an idea that we think there is another opinion. Oh, hey, think about it. Is it really? Is there somebody pointing at something to you? So, or the person just resists it because the person doesn't want to change. So this is both, again, the teachers may feel resistant as well as the learners. Misconceptions of blended learning. So how we perceive what blended learning is, how students perceive what blended learning is. Do they see it do they take it seriously? Do they think it serves for their needs? Or is just waste of time? Is another issue. Time constraint. Do we give feedback on this online platform? How much time can we devote? Are we going to do it in the class? Is this going to be is it going to be within the classroom instruction? Is it something, do we assign tests? Do we do homework? We all need time to do this. Teacher to evaluate it, maybe, or to give feedback, and students to complete it. And lack of training and support, which probably leads to problems, or maybe resistance, or not really knowing and not really making use of the blended learning. So we thought that's a very big problem. If there is no training, no support, that dramatically affects how people use it, or it just gets people do not use the platform. And suggestions. So we discussed about the challenges, so what could be the suggestions? The first and number one is that first, we think that there is a need to clarify the rationale behind using BL. And everybody should agree on this. Teachers and learners should agree on a model, on what blended learning actually is, and move forward accordingly. A summer model, an alternative. Another one, apply a bottom-up approach that helps to promote ownership. How we deal with this, getting actually teachers on board rather than us as curriculum members or or teachers dealing with blended learning programs, not telling them what to do, but getting their ideas through the needs analysis, like you have mentioned, or basic questionnaires, getting their feedback, asking for their opinions, and then kind of selling the idea to them to them as they wish to see, and for them to have ownership to what they do. Because otherwise, if you just try to promote it in your own way, then you probably might face resistance. So the more they're involved, the better it is. Develop an institutional blended learning culture. This is what we mean by target setting sessions and an appraisal system. Further suggestions: step-by-step introduction and implementation. How to use the program, how to implement it in the class. And very importantly, to have a support team where you can always consult, go and ask for help, technical help maybe. Identify roles for teachers and learners, how much are they going to be responsible. And encourage online training for teachers. We just suggested in parentheses some programs that you can have a look at, course programs. And encourage learner training orientations as well, so that they can use workshops and continuous support. And invite blended learning practitioners from other institutions to come and talk about what blended learning is and to suggest ideas. And promote BL through short workshops by the staff, probably a person who is with good communication skills with the others. Get them on board first, get them help you, so that you can reach everybody. And the last point is keep revising upon feedback. So you probably, until the time you reach a good model for this, you probably need to go back, get feedback, revise stuff, and come up with a change with an update of the model that you use. So sustainability, consistency, the more you do it, it might not happen at the beginning, in the first try, but it will happen. If you could continue doing it, you probably will get students used to it, as well as the teachers. I think that's it, I'm done.